The internet is exploding right now as a digital nightmare has reportedly spilled over into the physical world, leaving the heir to an Atlanta dynasty in a state of total devastation. Hollywood is whispering about a security breach so violent and so targeted that it suggests a shift in the rules of engagement between hip-hop's most powerful families. Something darker may be unfolding in the quiet suburbs of Georgia, a narrative that has moved far beyond the safety of a computer screen. What started as a simple rumor about a digital feud between a young prince and a queen's legend may now be something much bigger, something far more permanent, and something that could leave a permanent scar on the Harris legacy. According to online speculation, the unthinkable has happened. The perimeter has been breached. Some insiders claim that the relentless psychological warfare between 50 Cent and the Harris family has taken a terrifying turn, leading to an alleged home invasion that has left King Harris pleading for his life. Unverified reports suggest that late last night, individuals allegedly linked to G-Unit affiliates bypassed high-level security to send a message that could not be sent via a meme. Fans believe that we are witnessing the fallout of a crash-out culture that finally met a force it wasn't prepared to handle. This isn't just about clout or views anymore. It's about survival in a world where the king's crown can no longer protect the prince. The urgency is palpable, and as the digital footprint of a frantic, leaked SOS message begins to trend, the world is holding its breath. Is this a wake-up call, or the beginning of a total collapse? To understand how we reached this point of no return, we have to look back at the foundation of the Harris throne and the unique, often volatile position held by King Harris. Clifford T.I. Harris didn't just build a rap career, he built a fortress. Along with Tiny, he presented the world with a vision of hip-hop royalty, a family that was as much at home in the boardroom as they were in the studio. In this sprawling dynasty, King was the lightning rod. While his father transitioned into the role of the elevated philosopher king, King Harris embraced the raw, unfiltered energy of the streets he was born into but never truly had to live in. His public image was a complex tapestry of bravado and defiance. To the fans, he was the Prince of Atlanta, a young artist who refused to let his silver spoon dictate his street credibility. He was the one who would go on live streams to argue with anyone who questioned his toughness, his loyalty, or his right to the throne. For years, things appeared perfect on the surface. We saw a family that stood together at every award show, a family that defended each other against the world, and a family that seemed to have the ultimate security net, both financial and physical. But beneath that polished surface, the cracks were becoming impossible to ignore. T.I. has spent the last decade trying to elevate his brand, moving away from the trap music era into social justice and corporate ventures. King, however, seemed determined to pull the narrative back to the ground. The public saw a father struggling to control a son who was increasingly obsessed with proving he wasn't just a reality TV kid. The industry was whispering that King's desire to be outside was eventually going to lead him into a collision with a force that didn't care about his last name. That force arrived in the form of 50 Cent. The legendary mogul from Queens is a master of psychological warfare, a man who uses the internet like a surgical tool to dismantle his enemies. When 50 Cent began his campaign against T.I. over paperwork and past legal issues, King Harris did exactly what everyone feared he would do. He took the bait. He stepped into the ring with a man who has survived 9 bullets and dismantled entire record labels. The public image of a safe, celebrity family was suddenly being challenged by a man who lives for the smoke. Slowly, the cracks in the Harris narrative turned into gaping wounds. We saw King Harris becoming more and more isolated in his defense of his father, often making bold statements on social media that many felt were over the line. He was talking to the streets from a mansion, and the streets were starting to talk back. Unverified reports suggested that the Harris family's private security detail was becoming increasingly concerned with King's unpredictable movements and his tendency to share his location in real time. Things appeared perfect on the surface during the family hustle era, but by 2026, the hustle had turned into a hazard. The King of the South was fighting a battle of words, but his son was fighting a battle of identity. The industry whispers claimed that 50 Cent wasn't just trolling, he was testing the perimeter. He was looking for the weak link in the chain, and all signs pointed to the young prince who was too loud for his own safety. The background was set: a proud, protective father who had moved into a new era of life versus a son who was desperate to prove he belonged to the old one. Between them stood 50 Cent, a man who knows that in the Game of Thrones, you don't always have to attack the king to win. You just have to make the prince scream. The world was watching a slow-motion car crash, realizing that the family hustle was about to meet the G-Unit reality. The escalation phase of this nightmare was a masterclass in digital tension that played out across our phone screens over a period of 48 hours. It began with an unverified report that 50 Cent had allegedly purchased information regarding the private security codes and layout of a residence linked to the Harris family. While this sounded like typical 50 Cent bravado, the social media reactions were immediate and fearful. Fans began to warn King Harris to go ghost, but the young artist did the opposite. He went live. During this escalation, King Harris reportedly mocked the idea that anyone could touch him in Atlanta. He stood on his balcony, allegedly showing off the security measures of the house, a move that many industry whispers described as a fatal mistake. Alleged leaks, clearly labeled as unverified, began to surface on private Discord servers, showing what appeared to be satellite images of the property with specific entry points circled in red. The internet was no longer just watching a beef, it was watching a target being painted. Social media reactions were a mixture of intense denial and morbid curiosity. Some fans thought the entire escalation was a coordinated stunt to promote a new reality project. But the fan theories grew darker when a series of deleted tweets from known G-Unit affiliates began to trend. One tweet reportedly read, "The gate is open. See you soon, Junior." While there was no confirmed evidence that these tweets were sanctioned by 50 Cent, the impact was psychological. The suspense was building throughout the afternoon of the alleged incident. Reportedly, there were social media wars happening in the comments sections of every Harris family member. Every time Tiny would post a promotional clip, thousands of fans would flood the comments with, "Check on King, and they're coming for your son." The silence from T.I. during this specific window, it was deafening. He was reportedly in a closed-door meeting in another city, leaving King in the house with what many believe was a skeleton crew of security. The escalation moved from rumors to leaks that felt far more cinematic and terrifying. A grainy, unverified video surfaced on a popular gossip channel that allegedly showed a black SUV idling outside the Harris estate for 3 hours. The claims were explosive. Some fans think it was a scouting mission by affiliates who wanted to show how easy it was to bypass the gate. The online community began to react to extreme theories, with some suggesting that King had been set up by someone within his own inner circle who was tired of the drama. Keep everything framed as claims and reportedly. But the atmosphere was one of impending doom. Industry whispers from the Grand Hustle inner circle claimed that there were frantic calls being made to local law enforcement, but that King had insisted he could handle it. This pride before the fall is what many fans believe led to the eventual breach. No confirmed evidence of a physical break-in had surfaced yet, but the industry reaction was already shifting toward a state of emergency. As the begging for help rumors reached a fever pitch, the house breach narrative became the primary lens through which fans viewed every piece of content. A resurfaced clip of 50 Cent saying, "I don't play with my money, and I don't play with my respect," was circulated as a warning that was ignored. The escalation was fast-paced, relentless, and emotionally draining. Every few minutes, a new insider would claim to have a leaked audio of the security alarm, only for the link to lead to a dead end. The world was watching a digital feud turn into a home invasion horror story in real time. There were no press releases, and no official police reports had been filed in the public record yet. But the fan theories were already writing the script. The question wasn't if someone was at the door, but who was going to help King when he realized he couldn't fight this off with a live stream. The suspense was a ticking time bomb, and the internet was ready for the explosion of the emotional breakdown. The emotional breakdown segment of this controversy began with a viral live stream moment that sent the internet into a state of pure panic. It wasn't the usual King Harris rant. This time, the screen was mostly black, with only the faint glow of a hallway light visible. The audio, however, was what stayed with everyone who heard it. King was reportedly heard breathing heavily, his voice a frantic whisper as he pleaded into the phone. "They're inside. Yo, someone call my pops. I'm in the closet. They're inside the house." The reaction was instantaneous. Within seconds, King Harris was trending worldwide. Fans began to panic, interpreting the "they're inside" as the final confirmation of the affiliate breach rumors. The emotional intensity of that live stream was unlike anything we've seen in the Harris saga. It wasn't a stunt. It sounded like a man who had finally realized that the internet isn't a shield. Then came the cryptic social media post from a member of the G-Unit camp. A simple photo of a Grand Hustle chain sitting on a glass table with the caption, "Nice house. Terrible locks." The tension was suffocating. Every deleted tweet from King's siblings was screen-grabbed and analyzed like evidence in a crime. One deleted tweet from Domani reportedly read, "If anything happens to my brother, the world is going to burn. Stop the games." This prompted fan reactions to trend, with many blaming T.I. for letting the beef get this far. The narrative of the family hustle was being replaced by a narrative of family terror, and the emotional weight was crushing. In the middle of this chaos, a cryptic social media post appeared on Tiny Harris's account, a photo of a prayer candle with no caption. Fans believed this was a confirmation of the crisis, a mother's silent plea for her son's life. The emotional breakdown was happening in the comments, as thousands of people argued over whether 50 Cent had gone too far or if King had brought it on himself. The tension was building toward a moment of clarity that never seemed to come. Instead, the public was treated to a series of insider leaks that described the emotional breakdown of T.I. himself as he allegedly learned of the breach while mid-flight. These claims, clearly unverified, spoke of the King being restrained by his own security as he tried to demand the pilot land the plane on a highway. Some fans think that this was the moment the Harris family truly broke. The emotional intensity was a high-retention nightmare. People couldn't look away because they were waiting for the SOS to be answered. Social media was a battlefield of theories. Some fans thought the begging for help was a marketing ploy for a new docuseries, but the raw terror in the leaked audio clips felt too visceral to be fake. The viral clips of fans crying while waiting for an update began to populate every platform. It was a digital vigil for a young man who had spent his life trying to be tough, only to be caught in a situation where toughness was irrelevant. This is the power of the breakdown segment. It forces the audience to feel the vulnerability of the unfiltered artist. Industry whispers suggested that even 50 Cent's closest associates were shocked by the speed at which the affiliates had moved. The emotional intensity reached a fever pitch when a video surfaced of a Grand Hustle security vehicle arriving at the house with its sirens off, looking completely disorganized as they scrambled to secure the perimeter. This was the emotional breakdown of a security empire. The Harris family was in pain, and that pain was a signal to the world that the breach rumors had a foundation in reality. The suspense of this phase was rooted in the deleted tweets. Every time a family member would post and then immediately delete, the internet would spiral deeper into the mystery. "Help him," "Pray for King," and "It's over" were the phrases that defined the night. The emotional intensity was relentless. People were looking for the moment the prince would be found, or the moment the affiliates would claim their prize. As the breakdown segment concluded, the begging for help sentiment was no longer just a rumor. It was a collective trauma. The industry reaction to the King Harris breach was a study in cold, calculated silence and a sudden digital distancing. In the world of high-stakes celebrity, your brothers are often only as loyal as your last security report. As the begging for help narrative took hold, the first thing the public noticed was the brands going silent. Companies that had previously used King's image for urban streetwear or lifestyle products began to quietly remove his name from their featured sections. This wasn't a public condemnation, it was a brand erasure, a much more clinical and terrifying form of industry reaction. Frame everything as an observation. Major media outlets that usually jump on every Harris family drama were suddenly unresponsive when asked for a comment on the alleged home invasion. Public figures who had once praised King as the future of the A began posting cryptic quotes about the dangers of the mouth and knowing who you're playing with. These weren't direct shots at King, but in the coded language of Hollywood, they were unfollows in spirit. The industry was washing its hands of the drama. Observationally, several high-profile Atlanta rappers who had been seen with King in the weeks prior began to scrub their feeds of any recent mentions of him. This media silence from his peers was perhaps the most telling industry reaction of all. It suggested that whatever had happened at the house, it was too hot for anyone to touch. Some fans think that there was an informal gag order issued by the larger music labels, but observers noticed that the silence felt less like a legal requirement and more like a survival instinct. Public figures began posting cryptic quotes about reaping what you sow and protecting your peace. These quotes were analyzed by fans as betrayals of the Harris family. The industry reaction wasn't just about King. It was about the family's waning power to control the narrative. If the King of the South couldn't prevent a breach at his own son's house, then who was actually in charge? Unfollows from major industry executives, the people who actually control the deals, were tracked in real time by digital sleuths. The suits are running, one viral tweet read. They know the Harris shield is broken. Media silence from the major hip-hop outlets, the ones that usually thrive on crash-out culture, was another glaring observation. There were no tribute articles or investigative pieces. It was as if the industry had collectively decided to treat King as a liability rather than a celebrity. This observation, not accusation, shows a pattern of abandonment that often precedes a major shift in a star's career. The silence wasn't a lack of information. It was a fear of being associated with the fallout of a 50 Cent feud. Some fans think that the industry reaction was actually a coordinated move by 50 Cent himself to deplatform the Harris heirs before the documentary even aired. Industry whispers from the AR community claimed that the labels were actually shelving any projects involving King Harris indefinitely. The begging for help was being met with a going dark by the people who own the distribution. If your associates aren't posting you and your brand deals are vanishing, the industry has already sentenced you, regardless of what the police report says. The tension of this phase was a high-retention pacing masterclass. Fans were checking the following lists of major stars every hour, looking for the next person to drop the Harris name. The public figures posting cryptic quotes became a daily event, creating a sense of a falling empire. People were looking for anyone to stand up for King, but the industry was a wall of silence. The prince was being left to face his fate, and his affiliates, alone, a digital exile that was being signed in boardrooms while the police sirens were still fading. As the brands went silent and the media remained mute, the begging for help narrative moved from likely to certain. The observation of the industry reaction showed a family that had lost its leverage and its support system. The suspense was building. If everyone was running, what exactly did they know about the breach that the public didn't know? The stage was set for the twist, the moment where everything we thought we knew about the affiliates and the house would be flipped on its head. But then something happened no one saw coming. A dramatic shift that shattered every theory the internet had constructed. Just as the begging for help and affiliate breach narrative seemed to have completely dismantled the Harris legacy, a new voice entered the conversation. A voice that didn't come from a courtroom or a record label, but from a resurfaced clip that had been hidden in plain sight for nearly a week. A digital sleuth on a deep web forum discovered a hidden stream from a security camera inside the house that told a much different story. The twist? According to unverified speculation, the affiliate breach wasn't an invasion at all. It was a test. Some insiders claim that T.I. himself had hired the affiliates, who were actually high-level private security contractors, to breach the house to prove to King that he was not safe and needed to stop his online antics. The begging for help audio? Reportedly a real reaction to what King thought was a real invasion, but one that was coordinated by his own father to save his life. A new voice entered the conversation, a former brand manager for the family, who took to a podcast to claim that the SOS was the final lesson in the family hustle curriculum. It was never about 50 Cent, the voice claimed. It was about a father trying to scare his son into staying in the house. A resurfaced clip from an old interview showed T.I. saying, "I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure my kids don't end up where I was." This clip changed everything. The begging for help wasn't a tragedy. It was a tough love intervention taken to a cinematic extreme. Keep it dramatic, but speculation-based. Some fans think the affiliates were actually 50 Cent's people, but that T.I. had paid them off to participate in the scare tactic to end the feud once and for all. The twist suggests that the SOS was actually a turning point for King. The resurfaced clip of a Grand Hustle security vehicle arriving was now being viewed as the extraction team coming in to end the exercise. This strategic shift has left the internet in a state of total confusion. The twist reached a fever pitch when a new voice, allegedly a member of the security team, posted a blurred photo of a contract that specified a security audit and reality simulation for the Harris residence. This speculation-based twist created a sense of total uncertainty. Was the terror real? Was the SOS fake? Or was the SOS real, but the threat a fabrication by a desperate father? The begging for help was now being viewed as a masterclass in parenting or a psychological nightmare, depending on who you asked. As the twist phase concludes, the affiliate breach narrative has become a moral debate. We are looking for a man who might have been traumatized by his own father, or a father who might have saved his son from a real breach by faking a small one. The cinematic intensity of this realization has pushed the Harris controversy into the realm of legend. The prince has been humbled, but at what cost to his mind? The suspense was building toward the final question. Is this the end of the war, or the beginning of a much deeper family trauma? This brings us to the final, haunting question that has the entire world of hip-hop paralyzed with suspense. Is this the end, or just the beginning? We have watched the Prince of Atlanta beg for help in a darkened room. We have seen the industry turn its back, and we have heard the whispers of a twist that suggests the call was coming from inside the house. But in the silence of the aftermath, the truth is still a shadow that refuses to stay still. Was it all love or strategy? Was King Harris a victim of a 50 Cent crash out? Or was he the subject of a father's final lesson that went too far? The begging for help remains the most explosive headline in celebrity history because it represents the ultimate fear that even the most protected heirs are only one breach away from reality. Is the king really mourning the trauma of his prince, or is he watching the world fall for the greatest family hustle ever recorded? The internet is still exploding, and the whispers in Hollywood are only getting louder. We want to hear from you. The breach files are open, and every theory counts. Was it a strategic intervention or a security disaster? Don't let the conversation die here. Like this video, subscribe for the immediate update when the security footage is officially leaked, and tell us in the comments. What do you think T.I. is really hiding? If this was a lesson, did King learn it? Encourage your friends to watch, because in the world of the Harrises, the real story is always the one you weren't supposed to see. What is the truth? Comment now.